The war is widening, now on paper and at sea. Iran demands compensation, accuses Gulf states of aiding strikes, and warns of retaliation across vital choke points like Bab al-Mandeb. Oil surges, diplomacy stalls. Is this a legal battle over war damage or the prelude to a broader regional escalation? Iran has demanded compensation from 5 Arab nations for what it called committing internationally wrongful acts by allowing their territories to be used by aggressors and in some cases directly participating in unlawful armed attacks against Iran. Iran has pushed back against compensation demands from Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, and Jordan in a letter sent to United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres and Security Council President Jamal Faris al-Rawai. In the letter, Iran's ambassador and permanent representative Amir Saeed Iravani argued that these countries cannot legally invoke Article 51 of the UN Charter against Iran, accusing them of enabling what he described as US-Israeli aggression. Tehran instead maintains that it is the victim of aggression and is acting within its inherent right to self-defense, the letter says. It also alleges that, in some cases, those same states were directly involved in unlawful attacks on civilian targets inside Iran. Iran claims the countries cannot invoke Article 51 of the UN Charter, arguing they were complicit in what it calls unlawful armed attacks. This diplomatic escalation comes as regional tensions spill into critical global trade routes. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia has reportedly urged US President Donald Trump to end the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, warning that Iran could retaliate by targeting another choke point, the Bab al-Mandeb Strait. According to the Wall Street Journal, Iranian officials have issued direct warnings about expanding the conflict to this Gate of Tears, a vital artery for global trade. The strait carries nearly 10% of global oil flows, according to the US Energy Information Administration. Any disruption could severely impact energy markets already strained by the war.
If Iran does want to shut down Bab al-Mandeb, the Houthis are the obvious partner to do it, and their response to the Gaza conflict demonstrates that they have the capacity to do it.
Oil prices have already surged above $100 per barrel, while US inflation indicators show rising pressure linked to energy costs. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia has managed to sustain exports via its east-west pipeline, but analysts warn a second choke point disruption could undermine those gains. With ceasefire talks collapsing in Islamabad and both sides holding firm on nuclear and maritime demands, the risk of escalation remains high. The US blockade of Iranian ports is set to take effect, but Iran is unfazed and has sent a warning that is echoing across the Persian Gulf. Lieutenant Colonel Ebrahim Zolfagari, spokesperson for Iran's Khatam al-Anbiya central headquarters, made the stakes plain. Enemy-affiliated vessels would not be permitted through the Strait of Hormuz. All others could pass, but only under Iranian regulations. And whatever the outcome of the current conflict, Tehran intends to keep permanent control of the waterway long after the guns fall silent.
Other vessels will be allowed to transit the strait in compliance with the regulations of the armed forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran. If the security of ports of the Islamic Republic of Iran is threatened, no port in the Persian Gulf or the Sea of Oman will remain safe.
Iran called the US measures illegal and an act of piracy. Markets took note. Brent crude climbed roughly 8% on April 13th, pushing past $102 a barrel. China, which depends heavily on Gulf oil, may be among the hardest hit economically if the blockade holds. The pushback from Tehran was not limited to military commanders. Mohsen Rezai, former IRGC commander and now military advisor to Iran's new supreme leader, dismissed the entire operation with open contempt.
America, having suffered a historic defeat at Iran's hands in its failure to open the Strait of Hormuz, is likewise doomed to failure in any naval blockade. Iran's armed forces will not grant America such permission, and they possess vast untapped levers with which to counter it. Iran is no place to be blockaded by tweets and fanciful schemes.
IRGC Brigadier General Esmail Qani also joined in the rhetoric and termed the United States' efforts in the region as futile.
The Unified Resistance Front has a powerful and effective presence throughout the region and is lying in wait for the enemies of humanity. They will pull out of the region without any achievement.
As war of words escalates, the Strait of Hormuz is fast becoming the world's most dangerous choke point. One miscalculation here could send shockwaves through global oil, trade, and security. And if neither side backs down, this crisis may be far from its peak. Iran is facing mounting difficulty in reopening one of the world's most critical oil choke points, with fresh reports suggesting that even its own naval command may have lost track of sea mines deployed in the Strait of Hormuz. The development comes at a time of heightened regional tensions, raising fresh concerns over maritime safety and global energy stability. According to a report by Wenet News, Iranian forces are struggling to fully secure and reopen the waterway after laying defensive mines amid escalating hostilities. Satellite monitoring and intelligence assessments indicate that while deployment may have been swift, recovery and mapping have proven far more complex. US officials said the mines were laid in a haphazard manner, with incomplete records of their placement. Some devices are believed to have drifted, making detection and removal even more difficult. While Iran has left limited corridors open, allowing select vessels to pass, reportedly at a cost, these routes remain restricted and potentially hazardous. The Strait of Hormuz handles nearly a fifth of global oil shipments, making any disruption a matter of immediate international concern. US officials suggest that the issue extends beyond routine mine clearance. Instead, it points to operational confusion. Iranian naval units reportedly cannot locate the exact placement of several mines, raising the risk of accidental detonation, navigational hazards, and a prolonged delay in reopening one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world.
Some of the mines deployed by Iran are currently unaccounted for, complicating efforts to ensure safe passage through the strait.
The United States Navy has reportedly increased surveillance and reconnaissance operations in the area, closely monitoring Iranian movements and potential risks to commercial shipping. Western officials warn that even a limited number of unaccounted mines could delay reopening efforts for days or even weeks, particularly if sweeping operations require international coordination. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has also warned vessels of mine risks, while semi-official outlets have published maps indicating safer passages, though their reliability remains uncertain. For global markets, the implications are immediate and potentially severe. Any sustained disruption in Hormuz threatens to drive up oil prices and destabilize supply chains from Asia to Europe. Major import-dependent economies, including India, Japan, and several European states, remain particularly vulnerable to prolonged uncertainty in the Gulf. As tensions continue to simmer across the Gulf, the inability to swiftly secure and reopen Hormuz may prove as strategically damaging as the initial deployment itself. For now, the world's most vital energy artery remains under a cloud of uncertainty, with both commercial and military vessels navigating an increasingly perilous corridor. Iranian state media says the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy has released a map guiding ships around sea mines in the Strait of Hormuz, even as conflicting reports leave the waterway's status deeply uncertain. The map, published by semi-official ISNA news agency on April 9th, marks alternative routes through the strait, directing vessels north of Larak Island on entry and south of it on exit. It was a rare public acknowledgement that Iran had mined one of the world's most critical shipping corridors during its war with the United States and Israel. Yet within hours of that map's release, Iran's state broadcaster Press TV declared the strait fully closed, with tankers being turned away. One vessel, the Aurora, made an abrupt U-turn upon approaching the strait's exit and returned to the Persian Gulf. Shipping data told a similar story. On April 8th, only 4 vessels with their trackers switched on managed to pass through at all. The strait normally carries a fifth of all traded oil and natural gas. Since the war began on February 28th, that flow has slowed to a trickle, with Iran threatening to target any vessel it deemed connected to the US or Israel. The spot price of Brent crude was trading around $98 on April 9th, up roughly 35% since the conflict began. Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister, Saeed Khatibzadeh, told the BBC on April 9th that Tehran would restore passage through the strait once the US ended what he called its aggression in the region and Israel halted its strikes on Lebanon.
Iran would need to work with Oman and the international community on a protocol for safe passage to ensure it was not misused by warships.
However, according to multiple reports, vessels trying to cross Hormuz were greeted with warnings such as,
Any vessel trying to travel into the sea will be targeted and destroyed.
That message, received by several ships attempting to transit the strait, underscored why maritime traffic had ground to a near halt despite the ceasefire announced Tuesday between Iran, the US, and Israel. Meanwhile, peace talks between Tehran and Washington are due to begin on April 10th in Islamabad. Whether the mines come out of the water and when normal shipping resumes may well be the most consequential item on the table. Iran's diplomatic missions took an unusual turn after trolling the US President Donald Trump in plain sight. The embassy in Zimbabwe announced it had lost the keys to the Strait of Hormuz. Its mission in South Africa went further, quipping that the key was under the flower pot and open only for friends. The mockery landed hours after Trump posted a profanity-laden ultimatum on social media, demanding Iran reopen the strait or face strikes on bridges and power plants. He labelled April 6th Bridge Day and Power Plant Day. Behind the bluster, Pakistan was working the phones. Islamabad assembled a ceasefire framework overnight and shared it with both Tehran and Washington, outlining a 2-phase deal: an immediate halt to hostilities that would reopen the strait, followed by a comprehensive settlement within 15 to 20 days, tentatively called the Islamabad Accord. Pakistan's army chief, Field Marshal Asim Munir, spent the night in contact with US Vice President J.D. Vance, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. Tehran showed little appetite for urgency. A senior Iranian official confirmed the proposal had been received and was under review, but made Iran's position clear to Reuters.
Iran will not accept deadlines or pressure to make a decision. Tehran will not open the Strait of Hormuz in exchange for a temporary ceasefire, as it believes the United States lacks the readiness for a permanent ceasefire.
Across the border, Iraq's Kataib Hezbollah hardened the stakes considerably. Secretary General Abu Hussein al-Hamidawi addressed the standoff in a statement that left little room for interpretation.
The Strait of Hormuz will not be open to the enemies. Let them know that if they want to open it by force, they will not find any oil or gas platforms. They must realize the equation of today: either security for all or security for none, and either prosperity for all or everyone is deprived of it.
Meanwhile, 2 Pakistani sources told Reuters that Iran had yet to formally commit despite sustained diplomatic outreach from Islamabad, Beijing, and Washington. With Trump's deadline expiring soon and no response from Tehran, the Islamabad Accord remains, for now, a proposal without a signature.